everyone, and welcome to the Chief Fun Officer. I'm Rebecca Binnendijk, and here with me today, I have Lisa Ho and Helen Hag, and they are both workers at Menlo Innovations in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm really excited to talk with them because they are working at in an organization that really believes in fun and joy. And I know that Lisa has been working there for 13 years, Helen's been working there for 2 years, and they're a tech company, so they design technology. Lisa's a project manager, and Helen is a software developer. So I'm going to ask the ladies, and they're both here today, as a wonderful statement that working in teams within a business really works well. So they're here as a team to talk to us about joy and fun in the workplace and how Menlo Innovations have created an atmosphere for that. So go ahead, tell me a little bit about your experience, maybe when you first started, or just a little bit about Menlo itself so that listeners can understand what we're talking about.
Cool, yeah. So when I first started at Menlo, this was my first job out of college. So for me, it was a little bit like, oh my gosh, I'm in a real job, and what do I do? And I remember, as someone who doesn't have a computer science background, to start working for a company that develops software was very intimidating. And the pair people at Menlo, like you were saying, so I had a pair partner that I worked with, and about a month after I started, he actually left for another job. And I was told, okay, you're going to help carry this project forward. And it freaked me out. I was like, but I don't know what half the people are talking about half the time with all this computer stuff. And the joy for me was that the team really helped grow me as a project manager, and very much was helping me in how to convey information to the client. What should we be recommending for the plan for this client? And slowly over time, I became more comfortable in the domain of the project we were working on. It was around flow cytometers, which is a medical device that's used to analyze cells, which I knew nothing about. And they would teach me about what is a DLL, this computer thing that talks to the instrument that I knew nothing about. And so for me, it was just great to see like the team helped coach me along and grow me as a project manager, because I came in fresh out of college without that background, and they really helped to bring me up to succeed. So that was a little bit about my start at Menlo. But Helen, I'm curious to hear about you.
I see. Let me see. So the way I found about Menlo was through a meetup group. So there was a software engineering meetup group that I randomly went to after graduation to just see if I can, plug into the network in Ann Arbor. And one of the Menlonians there was announcing that Menlo was hiring. So I walked up to him, heard about what Menlo was, and he was very excited about it, that I decided, okay, I should check this out and go and sit in for the interview. So I think the main thing that drew me to Menlo was the fact that, as Lisa said, the support system is there. Before that, the job I was working at was for a very small group that does research in mental health, but I was the only technical person there. So I was just figuring it out. It was just me and Google search all day long, trying to just get things done. So when I went to Menlo and tried out for the interview, the one-day interview process was on that flow cytometer project that Lisa mentioned. It was a 10-year-old code base, and I get to work on that. But there was someone who was paired with me, someone very experienced that had multiple years of experience, just guiding me through and teaching me what to do. And I just, at that moment, felt like this is it, because the amount of mentorship that you get from the team, you can rely on and grow in any direction that you need.
Yeah, so I know that the interview process is really different at Menlo, and I love it, how it's such a intentional onboarding process, because most places you go in, you have an interview, you sit there, you answer all the questions perfectly the way you're supposed to answer them. Oh yes, I'm really great teamwork, and I'm going to be on time every day, and yes, I have the experience that you need. And then you come in that day, and the guy that hired you forgets that you're starting that day. So I know that it's very different at Menlo. So maybe you can paint us a picture of what the interview process looks like and how healthy that is in order to keep people in the office. I mean, I know that Lisa's been working there 13 years, and I know a lot of other people stay a long time. So the turnover is less, which means the company is saving money because they do this incredible onboarding system. So tell me a little bit about how that works.
So the interview process has 3 different phases. The first round is where we have all of the candidates that have sent their resumes in the same room at the same time. So the first thing we do as a culture is we intentionally try to hire for a culture fit and then the technical skills first.
Wow.
The main reason, like you said, the kindergarten skills are very important. You can teach people the technical skills, but it's a lot harder to make people align with your mission and embrace your culture. So we don't look into the resumes that much with that notion. So when we sort of overview the resumes and get all the people in the same room for the first round of interviews, the first thing we tell them for that cultures test is that they have to make the person they're working with get the next round of the interview, get into the next round of the interview. So it's not make sure you get invited back, it's make sure the person that is sitting next to you, competing with you, gets invited back. So
what?
Yes, that's usually confusing.
It's so counterintuitive to what we teach individuals in society. As a very individualistic society, we teach kids to get the best grade. We teach them to do whatever we can to get the job so that they don't. When you're in an interview, you're outside waiting for an audition or an interview. It's like, who's next to me and am I better? Right? So what this is why I love the concept, and I believe so many more companies would benefit from this. So that's the second phase. And then the third phase?
That's the first phase.
Okay.
Yes, that's the first phase. So we randomly pair the different candidates with each other, as pairing is also part of our culture. And instead of, like you were saying earlier, asking them if they're, gonna be on time or are they a team player, what we do is we decide to observe how they actually interact with that person that they're paired with. So they're given a task. We don't really care about their outputs of the task, but a Menlonian sits in front of them and observes how they interact with the other person. Do they build on the other person's ideas? Do they listen? Do they hog the pen and paper? We intentionally give them one piece of paper and one pen, just to see that they share, because we share one keyboard and one mouse when we're in the factories, in the Menlo space. That's how we collaborate. So that's very telling to see how people work with each other instead of just asking them the questions of, how do you work, with each other, with other people?
Observation, sure.
Yes, exactly. So that's the first round. The second round after that, we filter through the people we decide to invite back who have the kindergarten skills. And second interview is a one-day interview where the interviewee comes in and pairs in with a Menlo employee for a day. So they're working on a client project. This is actual work. They sign an NDA for the day. They're paid for the day, but this is to see how they like the working in the environment. We had an open space. It was a loud environment. You interact with people a lot. So it helps them to see what the day-to-day work looks like. And it also helps us to see what their technical skills are in this phase when they're able to work. One of the things we look at mostly in this phase is their ability to say, I don't know, when I'm working with someone and they pretend to have it all figured out. That's a big red flag, because if you don't say I don't know, that means other people cannot help you learn. So that's one of the qualities that we look for. We actually say, did they say I don't know? So BSing does not work well on those interviews. But we do that, we emulate that for a day. And at the end of the day, the question we ask ourselves as team members is, would you pair with that person for a week? So would you want to work with that person? And we sort of agree with the people who worked with that person, interacted with the person, say yes or no. And if that person moves on to the third round, we invite them from about a week to up to 3 weeks, depending on when we actually make a decision. So that's also to sort of give them a feedback. So on a weekly basis, we give them very frequent feedback to see how they respond to feedback. That's a major part of our culture. That's how you grow. That's how you remain collaborative, because you will always have differences of opinions when you're working as a whole team, when you're up to the 40 to 50 people. So that would be the third and final round of the interview process. And that gives the candidates an opportunity to see if they like the culture just as much as it gives us the opportunity to see if we like them as our teammates.
And it gives different Menlonians the opportunity to interact with them throughout that time. And we're looking at observing the behaviors of what are we seeing that's demonstrate good pairing behavior or good kindergarten skills. And so we're not saying, do I like this person? It's all about like how they're doing in performing the work and being a part of a team.
Well, and haven't we just given the answers to all the companies out there wondering, how do I decrease this 30% loss every year in my onboarding? Well, there's the answer. Just to give people a trial, I think that probably at the end of the 3 weeks, some become Menlonians, like it's no brainer, they're on, and other people are probably like, no, this isn't really for me, or obviously you guys as a team are like, no, they don't really fit. So great, problem solved. That's amazing. So I want to ask you, I know that the environment is very different. It's noisy, it's loud, people are sharing computers, you're not in cubicles at all. Meetings are held by shouting your name across the room, hey, John, hey, Tony, meeting done, which I find very efficient. But I want to ask you, do you find this environment is only for extroverts? Are they going to be better in that kind of environment? How are other personalities going to do? Because I want to be able to say to people, like, if they can apply this to their own company, will it work for other people?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people that come to Menlo assume that you guys must all be extroverts working in this way and all close together. And most of the team is actually introverts. We have a couple of very strong extroverts, but most of us more fall on the introvert side. Myself and Helen, I believe you also, would describe yourself as an introvert. And for me, it's not draining, and I actually thrive in this kind of environment because the communication, it's not like small talk and that kind of thing. It's very focused, deep conversation on problems that we're solving for our clients. So the times when I'm pairing with someone all day, it's not, I'm tired at the end of the day, that's for sure. Being, you're kind of like working with someone all day. But it's conversation that we thrive on. More as an introvert, the stuff that's more difficult is like the social, more surface level, that kind of conversation, small talk, that kind of thing.
That's what the challenges for introverts is, because they have to talk about things they don't really care about. Yeah. But at Menlo, it's different. Yeah, that's really great. That's really reassuring, because I would think that the loud noise could be distracting. Now, speaking of loud noise, I know that Menlo is one of these amazing companies. I'm a huge supporter of community, and I think we've gone so far away from like the tribal mentality where the old and the young are together, and that's how we grow and that's how we learn. And I know in Europe, they've got lots of innovative ideas where, older people are living with university students, and it's really amazing. Menlo has their own version of that. So I know, Lisa, you've experienced what I'm talking about. Please tell us about Menlo Babies.
Yes, yeah. So this was a huge, joyful part about Menlo for me. So I have two little boys, one 2 and one 5, and I brought both of them to work with me after I came back from maternity leave. So from the time that they were about 3 months old to 6 months old, I brought them to work with me every day. And I did work less hours during that time. I would say instead of working a full 40 hours, I probably worked about 32 hours because I'm taking time out to care for them. But I got to see them all the time. And at that age, they're sleeping a lot. So a lot of the time I just had them in a wrap. And they'd be like, I'd be leading a tour and Josiah would be just sleeping with me, or somebody on the tour would be like, can I hold your baby? Or I loved with my son Oliver when some of the developers, Kevin came over and took him and brought him over to the developer pod, and I was like, oh, he's a little software developer in training. Like, it was such a good environment for them. Like, I got to be around them all the time, which was great for me as like a new mom. And at that age, I wasn't comfortable yet putting them, bringing a nanny in. I wanted when they're so young and fragile, I wanted to be with them. And I was surprised at how not distracting it was for me either. I was able to do my job. I did appreciate, as a project manager, I can be very client facing at times. And Menlo offered me the opportunity to work on our accounting system when I had my kids with me, so that it was lower stress. There was no deadlines. I could pick it up, put it down when I needed to go take care of the kids. So that worked out really well. And I appreciated, there was another mom, Emily, who has just had a few older kids than me. So I'm like first time mom with Oliver, not knowing what I'm doing. And sometimes when he'd be crying, she'd be like, let me just give you a break and I'll take him while you eat your lunch, or things like that. And so it really helped kind of ease me into going back to work. And I think it was really great for their development as little babies, getting to be in this thriving, energetic environment. And I mean, to this day, my kids love Menlo. Like, they still come to the office with me sometimes when we were in person. So yeah, it was a real gift. And we also noticed, like, our clients are excited when there's babies in the office. I remember one client that was very stressed, and we saw how he just like calmed down when he was holding one of our developers' babies. And and tour guests love to see the babies. And so it was a joy, and there's less challenges in it than you would think. It helped that Menlo had a room where I could go to feed him, change his diaper, put him down for a nap, things like that. But I would say we started by saying, let's run the experiment and try it out. And yeah, we've had over 20 babies in the office so far. So.
That's amazing. So you hit on a couple things. So I want to talk about the fact that at Menlo, you basically try everything. Nothing is a no. It's okay, we're going to do an experiment. If it works, great, we'll keep it. If it doesn't work, we'll let it go. But it's very open-minded, very vulnerable to opportunities and what could happen. And that I read about Rich and how he made the decision about the babies. It was just kind of like, okay, why don't you bring your baby? And yeah, most people would look at him as a CEO and go, are you crazy? You know, or other team members would be like, are you crazy? You know, but I just love that it's not such a crazy idea. I think it's really fantastic. And I was going to ask you too, since, you know, Rich is the CEO, and I know he plays a big role in making those kinds of decisions, but he also very much acts as a team player. So as workers at Menlo, I'd love to hear how you feel about your CEO, your boss. And, you know, I think the biggest challenge in business right now is that CEOs and bosses are trying to instill joy and fun by putting in the ping pong table, or saying you can have beer at 4 p.m. or you can get off early to go and be with your kid, you know, but the mentality isn't there. So then the workers are still like, I'm not going to play ping pong. He's going to think I'm lazy. Right. So I think that Menlo has something there, because you felt comfortable bringing baby in, you feel comfortable asking to try something. How do they create that? And how does Rich act as a CEO that's different than you'd seen in prior jobs?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So I would say one thing I appreciate so much about Rich and his co-founder, James, is how much they care about the team. Like, you can see that they really care. When you're talking to them, they're giving you their full attention, they're listening to you, and they trust us. Like, I remember on one project where we were going to have to deliver some news to the client that what you want to do is not what people want. Like, you can go ahead and deliver this to people, design and develop it, but it's not going to be adopted. It's not what the market is looking for. And we can tell you based on all these observations that we've done. And I remember Rich saying to us, you know what? I trust you guys. You deliver the news that you need to deliver. If that means we lose business with this client, then so be it. Like, I trust you guys, and you guys are going to do what you need to do. And just knowing that we have that complete trust from them it means so much. There's no fear around them. Like my first week working at Menlo, when I paired with someone and sent an email to the client, the CEO of the startup, and she was not happy with what we sent. The fact that James didn't come and say, well, why did you do that? And you should have done this. Like the fact that he said, it's okay, here's what we can learn from it. Like they just take out that fear, and that is huge. And they're also very transparent about everything with the team, whether it's the financials, whether it's, you know, concerns that they have, feedback. They just really excel at looking out for the team, caring for the team, and yeah, you know that they have your trust and they care about you.
Well, and scientific studies have shown that when you take away fear for people, there's way more room in the brain for creativity and innovation. Mm-hmm. Ideas are going to come. So people in any type of job are going to excel at their job if they're not afraid of being told they're wrong, or afraid that idea wasn't good, or afraid they sent the wrong email, or just there's so much fear, right? So that's a huge thing. But I think it takes time and to develop that trust, and that's like that onboarding process, right? It's like, this is what we're doing, and now you're here and we trust you.
Yep.
No, that's really cool thing that they're doing. And now you touched also, Lisa, on HTAs.
Oh yeah, sorry, high-tech anthropologists.
Please tell me about that, because that's where, I mean, as a consumer, and we're all consumers, but as a consumer, that's where I appreciate so much what Menlo is doing. Now, I just want to explain a little bit further in case people haven't caught on, or if they're just tuning in. Menlo is designing software for a variety of companies. So whatever company you are, you have a software need, whether it's a website or specific app designs or anything software related, they will design it for you. So as a consumer of software in everything, I appreciate this concept of having high-tech anthropologists. So Lisa's going to tell us about it, or Helen, whoever, go ahead.
Yeah, Helen, you want to dive in?
Sure. So our high-tech anthropologists are, as the name connotes, anthropologists who observe our end users in their native habitat to be able to determine what their needs are from the product that is going to be built for them. So it's usually common, to not tailor what you're building to the end user, and the end user is going to have to adapt and figure it out, and I guess, be a dummy to your system and learn as they go. What we try to avoid at Menlo is that pain that users might experience when they're dealing with a product that was not targeting them. So at the beginning of projects, our high-tech anthropologists would, after the concept has been identified, would go and discuss our potential users, would conduct interviews with them, would go and observe them. This is the key part, because sometimes a lot of people have what we call unconscious competence, where you know what you know to do your job, but you won't really, if I ask you, you may not articulate it because it's unconscious to you. They do a great job of pulling that out by observation and interviewing, and make sure that they capture all of the needs and the struggles of the end user to make sure that the product is going to alleviate that pain for the end user.
Now, what kind of backgrounds would your HTAs have? Are they, you don't go to school for being an HTA. Are they project managers? Do they have to have gone to college or university? What's the typical background? Or do you all do that at some point?
Yeah, it depends. Some people enjoy that role and are good at it. So there are even some software developers that might play the role of a high-tech anthropologist at times. They have all different kind of backgrounds, which is also true of everyone at Menlo. Many of our developers don't even have software backgrounds. One of our project managers has a PhD in astronomy. So everybody comes in with a different background. Some high-tech anthropologists have a background in human-computer interactions. We've also had a high-tech anthropologist that was a journalist. We had one that was a teacher. One what we're looking for is the curiosity. So high-tech anthropologists need to be very curious and understanding, hey, why do you have all these sticky notes all over your desk reminding you all of those things? And they also need to be display empathy and be empathetic for the end users and what they're trying to accomplish. So those are two of the things that we look for. And then they also need to be able to build models and understand domains quickly. So they're often jumping into, like, today I worked on a project for diesel mechanics and I need to go understand how they're getting faults off the truck. The next day I'm in a lab working on a project, or I'm trying to understand how the scientist is using a flow cytometer. So they're jumping into new domains and learning new things. So they have to be able to piece all that information together to make a cohesive picture that they're using to then create designs that we assess with end users. So those are some of the things that stand out to me. So it's not necessarily you had to have this degree for any of our roles. It's more those feeling empathetic for the user and this displaying curiosity.
Okay. I would like to know, because I think some people will be thinking, oh my goodness, I can't imagine a life where I have to work with a team member all the time. Now, I know you don't work with the same team member all the time. It's changing constantly, so you're always getting to know each other on different projects. But can you tell me the advantages and maybe the disadvantages of working with a team member? You did say you get really tired at the end of the day because I think you're actually working.
Yeah.
I think of my grade 8 students and they're out in the hall and they're talking, you think they're not working, but a lot of the times they are. I mean, sometimes they're not, but it's a little different when you're an adult. So tell me the advantages and disadvantages of working in a team within a working environment.
I think for me, one of the major advantages of pairing is the accountability. You are there, you are accountable to your pair partner in terms of, what you're working on, the way you're behaving even. And that really helps you stay focused. Like you said, you're tired at the end of the day because you're working the full day. There's no, okay, I'm gonna take a few minutes and go check my Facebook or anything like that, because you're there, someone's there to do a task with you and you sort of keep each other on track. The other benefit for me is not being stuck for a long time when you're with a peer partner. That was one of my biggest struggles at my previous job. I would be so frustrated and not know how to proceed. But when you have someone who you can bounce ideas off of, sometimes you will just throw something out there and then it triggers something in their brain that you just keep rolling with that. And that helps you get unstuck a lot faster than working alone. It also helps a lot with the quality of the work. The work I do when I'm alone is not great. I'm not gonna lie, because there's always someone, another set of eyes, proofing what you're doing, giving you better ideas of executing your work instead of you going down a rabbit hole and assuming something is right and finding out, oops, no, it's not correct. 4 hours later. So you save so much in terms of quality and time when you're working and collaborating with someone.
So it also gives us one last thing I was going to say is it makes it so that you can be out sick or on vacation and work still happens on a project and you don't have to be checking your email when you're not at the office because somebody else knows the things that you know. We're spreading the knowledge across the team, and we're not, instead of building up these towers of knowledge, like I'm the only person that can work on this thing. So when I go on vacation, I really am on vacation. I'm not having to check my emails, keep working, because somebody else is taking on those responsibilities while I'm gone.
And do you have scheduled vacation time? Because I know some companies now are allowing people to take vacation when they need it, when they want it. It's kind of an open, get all the work done and take your vacation. What's Menlo's philosophy around vacation time?
Yeah, so we have, I think it's about like 4 weeks paid vacation time and then 10 holidays that you can take whenever you want.
What if they have unlimited vacation? What would happen with the Menlonians?
Yeah, what would happen?
Like you have to finish this amount of work, but I feel like a lot of you really like being there.
Yeah. The other day I was like, this is so cool. Like I get paid to do this. I was pairing with some team members to deliver a workshop on our extreme interviewing process with a company in New Zealand. I'm like, how cool is this? Getting to hang out with people from New Zealand and teach them about how we interview. So yeah, I would say a lot of us, you just love being there and doing the things that we do. And surprisingly, even as we move to remote, like there's still a lot of that connection is still there. We're still pairing, you know, in a Google Meet or Zoom all day together. And
that was going to be my next question. Like, what's the challenge? You know, some people may also say, oh, well, you've set yourself up for failure because now you don't have that space where you're all working together and you're all functioning and productive. But I would beg to differ, because I bet you anything, because you have those established relationships, it's actually, I'm not sure how many people have quit from Menlo in the last 8 months because of, you know, the climate right now.
Yeah, the one that left was because he moved back to live with near family in Boston after they had a baby. I think there's some people on the team that actually really like working remotely. There's some people that can't wait to get back into the office, like Rich. You can talk to, he really misses it. And there's some that are kind of in the middle of like, hey, I could see doing this sometimes after we're kind of through the current situation.
Yeah. But I think because we value, like you said, the relationship and the collaboration so much, we've experimented and found ways to port that virtually. Instead of cutting down on the level of collaboration, we've tried to find ways of remotely pairing, remotely having our, you know, daily stand-up meetings, our company-wide meetings over Zoom, and just tackling the technological challenges to stay connected as much as we can. Because I don't know, I love the people, because you pair and you're around all the time. There is that special connection that you build with your team members.
Well, and that special connection you're talking about is building, it's like a family. And when you feel like work is your family and you can take your children to work and you are doing fun projects and the whole concept of work is joy, and your CEO believes in that, it's not a place you're going to leave for like a couple $1,000s more, or, you know, because the joy in your day-to-day life is far more valuable than a higher paycheck and to go into a cubicle or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's something really important, I think, for all companies to learn from a place like Menlo. So now, do you think that the mentality of joy and fun in the culture, is that sustainable, or do you think it's a fad for now because of, you know, millennials coming into the workforce? How do you feel about the sustainability of that mentality?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like a lot of the fun and the playfulness at Menlo and the joy comes from the culture that's already been established and the way that we work together and the processes that we've set up. So it's kind of helping us, it's setting up an environment that allows us all to play on the playground together and and get work done, you know, in a way that is effective. And I think it brings us joy, like to see from our clients the results of the work that we've done, and to hear from them, like to hear from one of our clients about, hey, these many people are using the system and it's working well, and like that brings us so much joy. And we've seen younger people come in, we have older, like I don't think it matters your age or background. It's just, it's a fun way to work, because there's, like you're saying, there's not the fear involved, there's not the pressure. Yeah, sometimes it can be stressful and we go through like difficult times on a project, but knowing that it's not one person on their own, like it's not all on me, it's the whole team, we're going to get through this together, is very rewarding, because then you come out at the end of this project that we're like, how are we ever going to get that done? And it's like, we did it. And now we look at it like it wasn't a big deal at all.
I would say that's a sustainable mentality then.
Yeah.
People really truly adopt it. But the idea is to really truly adopt it. Now, right now, and even before, I think there's a lot of attrition and fear-based companies, startups, and they're just afraid to to do anything, you know, because they're set into like a corporate mindset, or they are only thinking there's one way to do this, and they do feel probably alone. The CEO isn't bouncing things off their team, or whatever situation it is. But I would ask you, if a company was struggling, like what to set up first, because I think a lot of the times the mistake is they want to set up systems and operations so that they're generating an income and doing all of these things on this side, and then they want to implement healthy culture. I think it's opposite. I think these companies are in fear, but if they actually invested in the healthy culture, the fun, the joy, hiring a CFO, or researching, talking to somebody like Rich to come in, to work with them, to implement and give them the strategies on how they can change. That's what I think, and I think you'll agree, but I guess what's your experience been? I mean, Helen, you just started two years ago. Can you imagine walking into Menlo and they didn't have the culture, but then they tried to implement it after? Does it work?
I think it'll be definitely a lot tougher. I think as a new person, what makes it so easy to just adopt the culture is because it's already established and is really there. It's in everything you do. So it becomes a habit before you even know it. But I feel like even if you're starting to adopt it afterwards, it may not be as effective as, you know, starting off with a culture initially. Like you said, I completely agree with the fact that I think having a healthy culture is a lot more effective in having productive output as well, because right, the happier your team members are, the more unfearful they are and more creative they are going to add value to the world that is going to come back as profit to the company. But I think at any point, I don't know if I believe that it's ever too late to change someone's culture. Maybe it's like the optimistic part of me. But I feel like any company can do that for their own team by starting small. I think the hard part is trying to completely transform your culture in one go. That usually doesn't stick. A lot of our quote unquote policies, or I don't know, whatever rules we have created as experiments, started out as experiments. Just try it out for a little bit. You know, it's still sort of in that phase where you're gauging whether it's working for you, it's not working for you. And if it's working, if it's effective, it sticks. And then, you know, you take one more piece of experiment and you sort of build up a culture based on that instead of starting large. So I believe it's possible at any phase.
I agree. And do you think that if a company, I mean, there's only so many people like Rich out there. So if a company doesn't have a leader like Rich, but the leader sees the benefits in it, how do you think it could be beneficial to companies to hire an outside person to come in and to take a deep dive into their company and look at how they could do it? How would that be beneficial?
Yeah, so we've definitely seen value in that, and that's something that our high-tech anthropologists have done at times for companies. And we can see sometimes it takes like an outside perspective to kind of observe what's going on and see where the pain points are, see the challenges, and to help kind of paint the picture of here's where things are now, here's where we're seeing the pain that you're experiencing, and what are things that you could do to help improve that environment and that culture to move in a different direction. So I know, like, even for us, sometimes things that we tried to do at Menlo, we had to bring somebody else in, like, to help us, because you're so, like, when you yourself, like, you're so familiar with everything, like, and it's hard, and you need to bring an outside perspective to help you. Like, when we rebuilt our Menlo website, we hired another company because we had tried to do it before and it just didn't turn out well. We needed somebody else to tell us, like, this is how you should portray yourself. This is what you guys should do. So we definitely see, like, sometimes working on yourself internally, it helps to bring in outside perspectives.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's what I do. That's why I go in, and you definitely see that all the time, that you don't recognize your strengths and your weaknesses until somebody else that I have a lot of the qualities of an HTA, to see those things and super curious and just willing to try anything. And okay, well, if we don't know how to do it, let's experiment.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And for me, that's what fun is. I mean, I'm very much trying to change the idea that fun is frivolous and irresponsible to fun is exactly what Lisa was saying. It's fun to see your clients happy and using what you created. That is joy. That is fun. So
Yeah.
all right, before I let you go, we always do a little fast round questions. So just answer them as fast as you can. I don't even have my timer, but I'll watch my clock. And you can just maybe either both answer it as quick as you can or however it comes out.
Okay.
And I'll just ask you as fast as I can. All right, here we go. All right, maybe I'll address you. I'll go, Lisa, what's one thing you would love to do, but you haven't yet?
Visit Europe.
Yeah, you should definitely do that. Helen, what's one thing you love about yourself?
I'm kind.
Okay, we'll go back and forth. What's something you know you do differently than most people?
Tell my story, I guess, about myself for a book that I'm writing.
Oh,
It's a cartoon. So.
oh, fun. Great. Helen, what is the most defining moment of your life so far?
Ooh.
Hard one.
You can get personal.
Oh, this is hard. I'm trying to think. Deciding to move abroad. I'm not originally from the US. I'm from Ethiopia. So I think deciding to go abroad with, no family, well, that was defining.
Amazing. Actually, one of my new housemates is from Ethiopia too. I love my stuff in Africa. I've got lots of projects in Africa, so cool. All right, Lisa, can you think of a time when the impossible became possible? I feel like there's so many.
Yeah, and the impossible became possible. When I met my husband. I was always like, am I ever going to meet someone? And I remember meeting him, and I told my mom, like, I will marry him if he asks me to marry, before we even started dating. And
I was like, oh, I'll marry him. He's hot. That's awesome. Helen, what song gets you up on the dance floor?
Ooh, Walking on Sunshine.
Nice. Lisa, when's the last time you had a massive, uncontrollable belly laugh?
oh, when I was making dumplings with my kids the other night, teaching them how to fold their own dumplings.
Okay. All right, and last one. Helen, what do you want to be remembered for? She's got the deep questions.
Yeah.
Making a positive change in someone's life, however many, however few.
Love it. That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much to Lisa and Helen for being on the show today from Menlo Innovations. I'm Rebecca Binnendyke, and I'm the Chief Fun Officer. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.